Hello everyone, so thank you very much for clicking and watching this video. So this is going to be the part 2 of the How to Become a Certified Medical Interpreter series. So if you haven't watched the first one, I highly suggest you go watch the first video and then come back. In the part 2 here, we are going to talk about the actual registration process. So if you are ready, I will meet you on my computer. So here we go. This is the website for the Certified Medical Interpreters, the MBCMI website. Like I told you last time, you will want to go probably here where it says get started and probably start with getting prepared like last time. And I highly suggest that you click on this CMI candidate handbook. They really did a wonderful job in terms of explaining all the details. It's a 31-page document, so they pretty much have everything in there. So I think if you have any questions, it's worth probably checking this out first, give it a thorough read. And the stuff that I'm going to talk about, registration, it is mostly there, but I'm just going to talk a thing or two about what was new for me and something that I had to experience and I had to kind of learn during the process. And I will talk mostly about those kind of things. But I think it is probably good to just to start with here, step 1, where it says registration. And because I speak Korean language, I'm gonna go into prerequisites Korean. But if you speak any other of these 6 languages, I think you should just click on those and it will be very similar. So let's talk about the registration process. Step 1, the actual registration. There is non-refundable registration fee that is $35 US dollars. And once you pay for this, you get 1 year to submit all your documentation and pass both written and oral exams if you are going for the CMI credential. Meaning, you will probably want to have everything ready before you actually register. I honestly don't see a reason why you would rush into this when you don't have anything ready. So I would say prepare for everything, get your documents ready, get your written and oral exam prepared, then register. Pay $35 and just boom, boom, boom. The documentations, written exams, and oral exams. Then I think that would be a much better way to go about this. So let's talk about CMI prerequisites for Korean. So this is the mostly step 2 kind of ish. Prereq. I think this is a little confusing. Number 1, minimum age is not going to be confusing. It's at least 18 years old. In international age, I know Korean age is working slightly different, but it's the international age 만 18살, so at least 18 years old. You need to prove this your age with passport or things like that. Not a big deal. Number 2, general education. This really doesn't matter much because this will be actually covered in later on when we're providing oral proficiency in either language. So if you have graduated from at least high school or college or university, bachelor's degree, that can be pretty much the documentation of for this general education. Number 3, profile photo, that you have to send them a photo. Not a big deal once again. Number 4, medical interpreter education. You might wonder about this. What is this? So pretty much you have to get this, completion of the certificate of completion from any approved medical interpreter training course that is at least 40 hours. So there are many different courses that provide this 40 hours of medical interpreter education. I am not going to talk specifically which institution or organization provides this. However, you will be actually, in fact, check that. You will be able to check that. I think if you go here, IMI training or the one below, not exactly sure, but here, yeah. So there are many different places where they offer those things. And not only here, there will be other places that might offer the same thing, and you can check with MBCMI by sending an email to steph@certifiedmedicalinterpreters.org if you want to see whether it is indeed covered or not. For me, I have done it through my work, which is Language Line Solutions, and I got this web advanced medical training for 40 plus hours, and they provide this to their employees for free, so I had taken that advantage and used it. So if you work at Language Line Solutions, or in Canada, I believe it's KEIC Services. So KEIC Services own employees, you are entitled to do this, so you can save some money. Typically, we are talking about probably, I don't know, it really depends. I think when I looked at it, probably something around 500 US dollars to up to $1,000. Many places do not only 40 plus, but 60 plus hours. They try to provide, extra information on site translation or even simultaneous interpretation, or things like court interpreting if you are interested in those kind of things. So there are many different programs for that. I suggest you do some research. The purpose of this video is not to provide or advertise one specific college, or like institution, although I do work at some different companies or different institutions. However, that's not the purpose of this video, so I am not going to make any sort of recommendation. So I highly suggest you do your research on that. And if you are not sure whether this is going to be approved, simply send an email. I showed you earlier, staff@certifiedmedicalinterpreters.org. You can send an email there, and then they will be happy to answer whether that course is going to be approved by MBCMI or not. If for some reason you have attended a college or university where they had this medical interpreting course, like as a class, that is at least 3 credit hours, so that's pretty much one term, one semester, you can use that. However, I am guessing that is not very common. So if you already have this, then for sure you should use this. Try not to pay extra, 500 or a grand up to, don't do that. However, this is probably cheaper. So if you are looking for, a course to fulfill this requirement, medical interpreter education, then I think you probably should just be okay with this 40 hours. And speaking from my experience, this is really not enough. Not to, throw shade. Like, I'm not saying the training that I got was not good enough or anything like that, but also at the same time, it wasn't the best training that I've received or best education that I received or anything like that. So it was pretty, it was there. Material was helpful. However, I really needed to study on my own, spend my own time outside of those 40 hours to really get those medical knowledge. So I used lots of YouTube videos about medical terminology, human anatomy, things like that, and I will talk about those later on. Next, once you have this medical interpreter education, you also need to show these 2 oral proficiency in English and also your target language. For me, it's going to be Korean. And this has a little bit of sort of like a trade-off situation for me, because I came to Canada before high school. I graduated from high school here in Canada and university also here. So proving my oral proficiency in English was not a problem. So I graduated from high school and I graduated from university. So it is already met. I did not have to take any of this English exam to prove my oral proficiency in English. And just if you are curious, because I had the high school and university, it really doesn't matter. Even if I just had a high school diploma from high school in the English-speaking countries, so in the States, United States of America, or Canada, or UK, or I don't know, Australia, all the places where they speak English. I think that is sufficient. For example, if you're from like Korea, or if you're from Mexico, if you're from China, obviously this is not going to be the case. This will be still, sufficient proof for this general education in number two. So if you graduated from high school in the US or in Canada, you will be able to provide that document as oral proficiency plus the general education. They, qualify for both. So you don't have to have separate a thing for these two. Next case, oral proficiency in Korean for me, because I didn't go to high school, I didn't go to university or college in Korea, I actually had to take an exam, and I decided to take this ACTFL oral exam, which is American Council, blah 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 blah. It was easy. Really, if you would know, right? I was born in Korea, I lived there until I was 14, and I still, speak Korean on a daily basis. So I know speaking in Korean is not it's not an issue for me. But you would know if you were born in an English speaking country, but your parents just speak a little bit of your language, then you might want to really be prepared for this, because your language might not necessarily be good up to their, as good as their standard, like whatever their requirement is. So just kind of do the self-assessment, see if your language skill is good enough. And getting tested is one of these things. Yes, well, although I did say it was easy, but obviously it was not like 1 + 1 = 2. I am a student. Like, it was nothing like that, okay? So it was still a bit challenging towards the end. However, if you are fluent in your English, if you believe that, then I don't think you will have a problem. It's just the reason why I went for ACTFL rather than this parrot thing. I think it was just because it was a little bit cheaper back then. I'm not sure about the price right now. I could check, but I don't think that is really necessary. They're not that expensive. I don't remember it being that expensive. But I did it at home. This OPIC, I think OPIC, the computer recording one, and this is what I got. So this American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, I did get advanced high, which is not superior. Sad. However, advanced high is more than enough to prove your language proficiency, and I think the level you need to get is advanced mid-level. So I suggest you do that. So I think it's very unlike, if you are a person who graduated from high school in your country and then went to university in the US or Canada, that would be perfect. You have no reason to take any of these exams. However, if you're in a place like I am, the situation I was in, then you probably will have to take this extra exam, which doesn't take very long, which is, there is no wait time or anything. You sign up, you pay, and then you will be able to get your result pretty quick. It wasn't very long for me. So that is pretty much all of the prerequisite you have to prepare. And again, I showed you earlier that you can go one of these websites to double check what you need to prepare. Once again, registration fee is non-refundable. So let's say you did that, you have those prepared, or you're planning on doing that. And how does the written exam, so going for Hub CMI title, let's see how that looks like, the registration process. So I would click on test from home, because even if you could do it in, at the testing center, I feel like, with the COVID and everything, just home is a better option. If you do have a quiet home, I think I would highly suggest using ProctorU. You probably won't be able to cheat. I'm actually honestly not sure how exactly you would even cheat for an interpretation exam unless you have someone else to do it for you, but then they also check your ID, check your, all your credentials and everything like that. So it's not worth it. Like, what's the point? Just to do it. So written exam, they will, lay out everything that you need to know in terms of the like tech requirements, like environment, things like that. It will be all there, so I don't think I need to really say much about it. The payment is $175 US. Yes, pretty expensive. However, oral exam is going to be more expensive, and there is this non-refundable rescheduling fee if you ever need to reschedule. So I would say get all your prereqs done. Get all the studyings done for your written exam at least, and maybe start your oral exam. However, please remember, written exam is only in English. It's not going to be in Korean, it's not going to be in Spanish, it's not going to be in Russian, Vietnamese, Mandarin, any of those languages. It's only going to be in English. They're going to talk a lot about, interpretation, like interpreters' code of ethics, standards of practice. They will also ask many medical related questions. So I would say just read over. Typically what you have to do is you will have to sign up on proctoru.com. You have to create your user ID and stuff. And then you are going to book on both. So you actually pay here on this NBCMI website. However, the actual exam that you book, you are going to do it on the proctoru.com. So I think how you actually do it is that you make a payment here and then go to proctoru.com and see which time slot like you are going to book it. Because it was all computer-based recording, that you are not talking to a real-life person for the exam, although there will be a real-life agent, proctor you, who is going to be proctoring you, who's going to be watching you and monitoring you. Every exam, it is provided like every 10 minutes incremental, so pretty much you can take it anytime. It's just I think they do request you to pay like a couple business days before you actually write the exam. So make your payment first and then do the scheduling part. But for sure, do all of this after you study. And on what you will expect from the written exam, yes, you can watch the video, but I will also talk about it in the next video when we're talking about the exams. One thing, there are going to be no materials permitted, meaning you cannot use dictionary, you cannot use any sort of like phone, Google dictionary, anything like that. So you can't use any of those. Oral exam, it might be a little bit different. You have to pass 70. They have to be at least 75%. It is doable, especially if you have some medical background knowledge. I think it is doable, but you will need to study hard. So that is the registration for written exam. Nothing too difficult. And this is what I mentioned, at least 72 hours in advance. Pay for your exam 72 hours, and then actually, schedule things. Then let's look at the oral exam, and then once again, testing from home, just because it is easier. Same thing. $275 payment. Yes, steep, expensive. However, once you get it, you'll be done with it. So if you believe this is worth investment, I personally thought it was. So it's up to you. There are other things that you should worry about in terms of like what to prepare, things like that. But actual exam, we will talk about in the next video. But one thing I do want to talk about is that they actually allow you this non-electronic dictionary and glossary. It's like a paper dictionary. You can actually use that. However, from my personal opinion, I never really even got to use those. Like, you don't have that much time to look up the dictionary, and just because I was so used to just typing on my website, like a dictionary, online dictionary, so I was really slow on finding the words and stuff like that, so I ended up not using it at all. So I suggest you either practice how to use this non-electronic dictionary, how to look up things quickly, or just simply do not rely on them too much. In my opinion, vocabulary, yes, it was tough, but they are not going to throw in the hardest medical terminology. They will still make it quite reasonable in my opinion. And also, you obviously will need 3 sheets of blank scrap paper where you will take notes. Passing scores, yes, 70%, 65%, 80%. It's slightly different from on each language, which depending on which language you speak. We will talk more about this later on. Just one problem that I actually had with this though is that I use MacBook Pro, and when I signed up for my oral exam, they actually, when I signed up, I paid everything, and then on the day of the exam, I sat there, I showed my ID card and everything to the proctor and the proctor person said, "Hey, are you using MacBook?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they said, "Sorry, you cannot use a MacBook." I was like, "What?" Nobody ever said anything about that. Like, it says Apple operating system is fine. But they're like, let me double check. And they just went away for like 5 minutes and when came back and they were like, "No, sorry, my manager said you can't use your MacBook. Sorry, we'll have to reschedule this." So I was like, "What?" And then after that, I emailed the staff at National Board of Certification, for medical interpreters, NBCMI team, and they replied, "Well, you should be able to." And then they talked and they were like, "We're so sorry, there was a misunderstanding. You should be able to do it." So they actually rescheduled mine 1 hour later. So I think I had it at like 11 a.m. originally, and they moved it back to like 12:30 or something, which was fine by me, but it was a little bit nerve-wracking because I didn't know what was happening and that didn't expect that. So I believe that is not going to be a problem for you. I hope everyone on ProctorU and the NBCMI, and I hope they, don't make this kind of confusion for other people. But if that happens, don't panic. That's what happened to me, so it's going to be okay for you. But I do highly suggest that you check all these requirements in terms of internet connection, things that you can use like your operating system, things like that. So that was it for today's video, the registration process, and finally I am going to talk about the written exam and the oral exam portion of the certified medical interpretation process. So that's going to be the last video of our How to Become a Certified Medical Interpreter series. So please like and subscribe if this was helpful, and if you'd like to hear more about the interpretation or how to become an interpreter, those kind of things, please like and subscribe and stay tuned. So thank you very much for watching this video once again. I will see you next time. Bye bye.